The House Select Committee on Protecting Michigan Employees and Small Businesses will come to order. Would the clerk please read the letter from the Speaker?
Dear Mr. Clerk, I appoint the following members of the 103rd Legislature to the Select Committee on Protecting Michigan Employees and Small Businesses. Representative Bill Schuette, Chair. Representative Ken Borton, Vice Chair. Representative Pauline Wenzel. Representative Matthew Bierlein. Representative Angela Regas. Representative Kathy Schmaltz. Representative Jamie Thompson. Representative Parker Fairbairn. Representative Ron Robinson, Representative Peter Hersberg, Minority Vice Chair, Representative Tyrone Carter, Representative Karen Whitsett, Representative Angela Whitwer, Representative Will Snyder, and Representative Matt Longjohn. Sincerely, Matt Hall, Speaker of the House.
Thank you very much, and would the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Schuette.
Here.
Representatives Borton.
Here.
Wenzel. Bierlein.
Here.
Regas.
Here.
Schmaltz.
Here.
Thompson.
Present.
Fairbairn.
Present.
Robinson.
Present.
Hersberg.
Here.
T. Carter. Whitsett.
Here.
Whitwer.
Here.
Snyder.
Here.
Longjohn.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. The House Select Committee on Protecting Michigan Employees and Small Businesses will follow the committee rules as prescribed in Chapter 4 of the House Rules. And we have an additional committee rule to adopt. It is before all of the committee members, and Representative Borton moves to adopt the proposed rule. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the proposed committee rules, Chair Schuette.
Aye.
Representative Borton.
Yes.
Wenzel. Bierlein.
Aye.
Regas.
Aye.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fairbairn.
Yes.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hersberg.
Yes.
T. Carter. Whitsett.
Pass.
Whitwer.
Pass.
Snyder.
Pass.
Longjohn.
Pass.
Mr. Chair, 9 yeas, no nays, 4 pass. The motion prevails.
Thank you. So, it is an honor to be named the chair of this committee. I want to thank Majority Vice Chair Borton and the members of the committee for their willingness to serve. And I would like to add a special thanks to Minority Vice Chair Hersberg, who is here just a few days after his family celebrated the birth of a new child over the weekend. So congratulations. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. And Representative Hersberg, I appreciate you not taking a no-call, no-show given these circumstances. So, we're here today because there is a looming cliff our state is racing toward. And on February 21st, our restaurant workers, our family-owned small businesses, and the future of literally thousands of jobs in our state will pay the price if our legislature does not act. So it is then this committee's duty to find a policy solution that bridges this gap and protects the hard-earned tips of restaurant workers, saves your local mom-and-pop store, and preserves some aspect of affordability to those living in our Great Lakes state. I'm sure that nearly everyone on this committee, which is representations from different corners of our state, have heard powerful personal stories about how the current changes to the tip credit and sick time policy will rob workers of wages, cut jobs from payrolls, and force small businesses to close. So it's the job of this committee to act. We are fortunate to have the sponsors of House Bills 4001 and 4002 here today. Gentlemen, I appreciate your willingness to propose solutions, and I look forward to your testimony today. And we have quite a crowd here today as well. And we have more than 50 people who have requested to testify. So I hope everybody here packed a snack and a cup of coffee. But my goal for this committee is to hold a fair and robust dialogue. We're going to have groups both testifying in support and opposition to legislation. And we'll have time to speak today. I would ask, because we have such an enthusiastic large group of those wishing to speak, please, if you can, keep your remarks to 2 minutes so we can hear from as many of the different voices and testimonies as possible. So with that, we will be taking testimony on House Bills 4001 and 4002. First to speak are the sponsors, Reps. Roth and DeBoyer. Gentlemen, please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, everyone, on this committee, the Select Committee. We really appreciate your time and willing to listen to all of us and talk about these important issues. So I really want to express my gratitude for recognition of the significant issue this could be. Over the past year, especially following the Supreme Court ruling and the end of July, I've encountered discussions about Save My Tips everywhere I go. Every restaurant, everyone that is a tip or a tipped wage worker, we've had contact with. I expect you all have had probably conversations with many also along the way. Small businesses are the foundation of our state's economy, employing many of our friends, our families. Unfortunately, the effects of COVID-19 and the severe inflation we faced in recent years have left them struggling to survive. The changes mandated by the Supreme Court decision will have a catastrophic impact on many small businesses, particularly restaurants which operate on razor-thin profit margins, not the 40% that I've been hearing people like to say online on my Facebook page. Increased payroll cost, as with expenses of food cost, will be passed on to the customers. This, in turn, will make dining out less affordable for the averagers that have had conversation with us. Currently, servers are compensated at 38% of minimum wage, with tips supplementing their income. If they do not earn the minimum wage during their shift, restaurants are required to cover the difference. So today, they do make minimum wage. That isn't covered by the employer if for some reason they can't make it up in tips. There's been a lot of misinformation on this, and I want to make sure that's very clear to everybody on this committee. In Grand Traverse County, the average servers earn around $30 an hour on average. The cost of living in Grand Traverse County is about $31, they say, is a living wage in the Grand Traverse County region. So they're fairly close. Taking them to $15 an hour does not quite add up. That math doesn't work. That goes the opposite way. So we need to do that. We need to take care of these kind of things. Evidence from other states that have removed tip wages show that customer tipping dramatically declines. That's also the case in Europe and in different places where tipping is just not the culture anymore. There may be tipping to start with, but as it goes on, we get to that $15 wage, the tipping declines significantly. With some of the while some may tip $1 or $2 for exceptional service, the standard of 15 to 20% will vanish. These workers dedicate themselves to their craft and their hard work and dedication deserving to be acknowledged and rewarded. A lot of these workers feel like they're entrepreneurs. They might be one of our last true entrepreneurs out there. They know how hard they work. They get compensated for it. We all have our favorite server that we know of, that we want to go and be with. And when we're with them and they treat us the way they usually do, we hit them up well. There's no doubt about it. Over the last few weeks, after we got out of the legislature, I've been sure to make sure I tip at least 20%, sometimes far more than that. So we have those dedicated people. And I wanted to tell a story of one dedicated worker. I was at a place last Friday, and the server came up to me and said, please, please fix this. This is my second job, but off my 3 days of work, it really creates a buffer where I can survive. And if I get $15 an hour, I have to leave this job and go somewhere else. I don't want to do that. I love the work I do. I don't want to have to leave. It is such a great job that a lot of these servers have the flexibility to work the hours they want to, whether it's take the evening shift or the morning shift. Single mothers in particular, this is a huge benefit to them. They can pick the hours that fits in with their daycare and that different arrangement they have. So we need to be looking out for them. They're the ones that are telling us to fix this. And I won't go too long. I'll save myself time for questions just to make sure that the tipped servers that are here today to testify in other groups, they're the ones you want to hear from. I can tell you the stories, but they're the ones that live this. So in Northern Michigan in particular, I'll leave you with one last thing. We have to find a way to make things work. Before I came to the legislature, I worked 3 jobs for 22 years, but all worked together. It fit in. All my employers were very flexible with me, and it was a way to make a living. In our rural and northern Michigan areas in particular, we find a way to make it work. And this would be a real detriment if this was not fixed. So please consider that, and we'll be happy to answer your questions when it gets to that point. I believe we're going to have Representative DeBoyer talk about 4002.
First, thank you, Chair Schutte, and thank you for the members of this committee taking the time to entertain this. I think it's an extremely important topic, as we all know, and I believe everybody sitting in this room understands that it is. As Chair Schutte had mentioned, we have a freight train coming at us at the end of February. And I would say that it's probably true in most of our cases that small business is the majority employer in your district. Small business is what keeps your district financially active, financially solvent, and small business is the employer that provides jobs for college kids when they come home for the summer, high school students, second part-time jobs for perhaps your spouse or your children. And I think that the sick leave policy, which is addressed in 4002, really does a lot of good things. It's a rather complicated issue, but the reality is the impact of what is coming at us in the end of February is rather straightforward. We know what's going to happen. So what 4002 has done is it's attempted to create an environment that is beneficial to employees with regard to paid sick time leave, but additionally not putting a burden on some of our small businesses in a manner in which literally they will close their doors if this is implemented come the end of February. What we've done is we've defined what a small business is. We've defined who qualifies for the benefits. We've outlined the number of sick hours or sick time leave hours that a small business is required to provide, providing the eligible employee does the number of hours worked. And so these are the things that 4002 will address. When the ruling came down from the Supreme Court last summer, I believe it was, it kind of came down just as a one-size-fits-all. It threw everybody from the largest of corporations into and the smallest of one or two employee businesses into the same measurement, the same standard. And as you know, again, to the same point that Representative Roth has spoke, my phone has not stopped on this matter. It began long before the introduction of this bill, from small business owner after small business owner who have said to me, understand if when this is implemented, we're out of business. I have 2 employees, a third including myself. These are the examples, a third including myself. And if this is implemented on me, mandated on me in February, I'm out of business because I can't operate under the structure as it's outlined. So that's what got me kind of interested in working this out. I will say that this is not a partisan issue. This is a rather bipartisan issue. We all are concerned about our workers in Michigan and being provided sick leave, sick time. And I do think it is the right thing to do as an employer to provide for your employees and to not take advantage of your employees. But it's not a one-sided coin. We have to also understand that small businesses, startups, these are significant expenses that can literally put them out of business. And that has been the message that's been loud and clear from the small businesses in my district, and I would assume that probably you've heard from them in your district as well. So that is 4002 in a very brief summary. I would love to entertain questions.
Thank you, Representative Roth. Representative DeBoyer will now be taking questions from the committee. Chair recognizes Representative Fairbairn.
Thank you so much, Chair Schutte. My question is in reference to 4002, sponsored by Rep. DeBoyer. The question is, what will be the impact on minors, J1 and H2B visa employees? Sure.
So they're managed under the visa statutes through the federal government. So they're an exempt employee. A large number of them are seasonal workers as well. So they're exempt under that provision as well. But I think is there additional, so the exemption that's granted under 4002 says that they're not necessarily eligible. Now remember, one of the important things, if I may, is this is the outline, right? This is the minimum. That doesn't mean that an employer can't and won't necessarily provide benefits beyond this, if that answers your question, Representative. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Borton.
Thank you, Chair Schutte. My question is for Rep. Roth on your Bill 4001. How is this going to affect underage seasonal workers?
Absolutely. If we don't do this bill, it's going to affect them a great deal. That's really the group of people that I think I'm most concerned about, is these high school kids that are working that want a summer job. If it doesn't change with these bills, they will be the ones affected the most. If I have to pay $15 an hour for an adult or a 15-year-old, I'm going to pay the adult if it doesn't matter. But we are going to, the current law and what we've brought over is that a under 18-year-old can still be paid the 85% of the minimum wage, like it's been in law all the way. Now, some people are concerned about that. As the wage goes up quite a bit, those 15-year-olds are going to start getting paid pretty good money. There are some independent campgrounds, ice cream places, things that I know a lot about the ice cream places around, unfortunately. And I know Representative Borton is an ice cream fanatic too. We're looking to maybe doing an amendment if someone was willing to do that, to make it maybe more closely aligned to the training wage for a new employee, because they are concerned. And I am concerned too that these underage kids aren't going to get the employment that they are seeking. So I'm fully open to having an amendment to making it just a little bit better. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, gentlemen, thank you for your testimony and for your presentations today. We will next be hearing from Lou Hayes from the Pepper Mill, Amy Cover from a server at Buffalo Wild Wings, Lana Face, and Tammy Upchurch and Stacy Seals. So please come forward, and you're testifying in support. You can push the red button in front of you. Thank you. Great.
Good morning. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Mr. Schutte and the members of the committee for holding this meeting today and for your continued support on this matter. My name is Lou, and I am the owner-operator of a small mom-and-pop cafe called the Pepper Mill. Even though I run the excuse me, so nervous. Even though I run the day-to-day operations of the business, 95% of my income comes from serving. And I started in this business as a really young teenager that wanted the designer jeans, I wanted the car, and if you are anywhere near my age, I'm sure you were told, get a job. And I was taught at a very young age that you need to work hard for the things that you want. Here we are, fast forward 40 years, and I'm still in the service industry. A lot of people ask me why I still am doing this, even though I have a college education, and my answer never changes. It's always the same. I love what I do. I love the hustle and the grind of being a server. I love waking up every morning, not knowing who I'm going to meet that day, who's going to come into my life. I love basically just taking care of people altogether. This is who I am, and this is the life that I chose. Being a server has allowed me to pay for a college education, buy new cars, buy homes, support my family, and rescue many dogs in need. This is the life I have chosen for myself, and now with the tip credit being eliminated, my livelihood is at risk. I don't know how I will continue to keep my lifestyle up that I have created for myself all these years. I've never had to worry about things like paying my bills, putting food on the table, taking care of my special needs dogs, paying for my outrageous health insurance, among many other expenses that just come along with living your life. We have all done what we can do. Save MI tips, we've done all that we can do, and our fate is in your hands right now. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to us when hundreds of servers and bartenders showed up at the Capitol. Thank you for the bills that you have put forward today. But the fight is still continuing, and we cannot stop. We have gone to great lengths at the Peppermill to educate our customers on this topic of the tip credit and the sick leave policies. We wear our shirts, we wear our buttons, we talk to them about reaching out to all of our legislators, and they always say the same thing. Well, this sounds like a great plan for everybody. Why would you be against this? You all work so hard, you deserve it. Until we explain to them that the only way that our small cafe can afford these new expenses is to raise our prices and to add service fees. This is something that I don't want to do, but unfortunately, there's no other option. Either we add the fees and raise our prices, or we just close our doors. Our customers have been like family to us. We see them every day. We see them every week. We've been invited to birthday parties, anniversaries, weddings, baby showers. We've seen our fair of funerals too. All these events wouldn't have happened if we didn't care about our customers so much. And after speaking to them about this new policy, these new policies that are going to be coming into play, and what we will have to do in order to survive, they say, and they have told us repeatedly, as much as we love you guys, you're simply just not going to see us that much anymore. We can't afford it, which equals less money in all of our server pockets. The restaurant industry is not even fully recovered from the pandemic. We've all lost employees. We've lost money. Some have closed their doors for good. The struggle is still ongoing to this day. We all operate on low margins, high overhead, inflation, and food cost is at the highest it's ever been. In point, the Peppermill makes its living on eggs and bacon. And now that Michigan is a cage-free state, that comes with a huge new added expense. Triple the amount in the price of eggs. And when you're known for serving 6 egg omelets, that is an astronomical amount for us. I don't want to cut my portions down and increase the prices. The restaurant business is dark and full of uncertainty right now. Putting these new policies into effect will break many of us. Good, hardworking people will lose their jobs. Doors will close, and all for something that we didn't ask for. Servers in the state do not want this. We never asked for it, and we are not out picketing for a higher wage. We just want to be left alone, can continue the jobs that we all love to do. In passing these policies will definitely take money out of our pocket. One fair wage swooped into our state and convinced our citizens that this is what's fair and this is what all servers want. They couldn't be more wrong. They don't have our support. Look at how many of us showed up at the Capitol on 2 separate occasions to save our tips. October 15th, One Fair Wage held a huge victory gathering with the lieutenant governor, and only a few people showed up, and many of them weren't even from Michigan. The proof is right there. I think I speak for most when I say go ahead and raise the minimum wage. We want people to definitely be able to afford a life in Michigan and a place to live. As the law states now, restaurant owners must make up the difference if their server tips don't meet the minimum wage. And as a server in this industry for 40 years, never once have I had to ask for a check to make minimum wage. And as an owner in 16 years, I've never once had to offer any of my girls a check to make up for minimum wage. Please research how this is working in the 7 states that have lost the tip credit. Thousands have lost their jobs. Doors are closing. People are eating out less. And 6 of those 7 states are among the bottom half of the states based on their average tip percentage. And 70% of Michiganders polled said that they would definitely tip less. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Ladies, anyone else would you like to testify?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Chairman Schutte and members of the committee for allowing me to speak today on behalf of Michigan servers and bartenders. My name is Lana Face. I work at Buffalo Wild Wings in Lansing, and I've been in this industry for almost 26 years. This is my livelihood. And I love what I do. I have been raising my 4 sons as a single mother on this income for the last 20 of the 26 years. I live and breathe this job, and I have for all these years. I guess what I don't understand is how anyone, let alone a lobbyist group from out of state, can claim that I'm being paid slave wages. It baffles me how this group claims to be helping us make a fair wage. Ultimately, they're going to cut my income between 30 and 50%. Now, to me, that is an unlivable wage, especially raising my boys on that one income. By cutting my income up to 50%, I will either have to work approximately 70 hours a week which is unlikely. The hours are even available, as well as I have 2 young boys at home that I'm with nights, weekends, and all summer. Or I'm likely going to have to apply for state assistance. That is what eliminating the tip credit will be doing for me and so many other single parents in the restaurant industry. As a community and tax-paying citizens, don't we want Michiganders, including single mothers, to be able to get off state assistance and become financially stable? Eliminating the tip credit only ensures more single parents in the restaurant industry will need such services. All we're trying to do is raise our children and stay financially secure. We've seen in other states what this has done to the economy, some restaurants being forced to double prices, smaller restaurants being forced to close their doors, and overall, less going out and spending at our local restaurants. This will have a huge negative impact on our economy. Not only will so many restaurant workers lose jobs and hours, but it will trickle down to everyone that supports this industry, from food and beverage vendors like Gordon's and Cisco, Dan Henry, to places like Mowers and Cintas, who clean towels and rugs, provide uniforms, and environmental health services, equipment repairmen, and after-hours janitorial services. Those are only a few. So many people will lose hours, if not their jobs. I'm not only fearful of my own financial security, but for so many others Michiganders' financial security and independence. Thank you.
Would you like to go? Hi.
How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for having us, Chairman Schutte,
yeah, could
and
you,
the rest of the committee.
Over the mic.
I have worked for Buffalo Wild Wings since 2005, December of 2005, and I enjoy my job, and I enjoy what I do greatly. I have established a lot of regulars that I see. I only work during the day. I don't work at night because I'm too old for that. It's true. But I work during the day, 10:30 to 4:30, give or take if I have tables and whatnot. But passing this would just destroy anybody that's making $30, $40, $50 an hour sometimes. The wage that we're being paid is overly compensated by the tips that we make on a daily basis. And I would appreciate it if we could just, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So let's just leave it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, and I enjoy visiting at Buffalo Wild Wings in Midland, so I appreciate you coming. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy, also from Buffalo Wild Wings in Jackson. Thank you for seeing us today and listening to everything that we have to say. One of the major points that I wanted to bring up that I haven't heard talked about a lot is the impact to everybody beyond the servers. Lana touched on it a little bit, talking about how we're going to affect the distributors and all of the other things, but I think that that's something that's not being considered a lot of. It's not just the employees, it's also the customers. We have, I'm sure Tammy knows from all of her stores, we have regulars that are in there 7 days a week. And that doesn't mean that they have tons of money and that they can afford it, but this is their home, this is where they come, this is where they have interactions. And raising prices to the point where those people can't afford to come out, that's going to have a huge impact on the customers as well. That's going to impact their mental health. That's going to impact so many more things in life than just the servers. But I am a single mom of 4. I've been in the restaurant industry for 20 years. And believe it or not, I can support my 4 kids on this job. My average is more than half of what they want to pay us at $15 an hour. $15 an hour after taxes is barely going to pay my mortgage. It's not going to pay for food. It's not going to pay for anything. And I work 30 hours a week and support my family. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing. And even at an entry-level position in that job, I'm not going to make nearly as much as I make now. We're just asking that everybody really think about the impact that this is going to have on us. It might seem like a good idea that we need these higher wages, but we don't, because I think the worst day I've ever had is $20 an hour. And I made $95 an hour 2 Saturdays ago. $15 an hour is a joke. And it's a slap in the face. We can't support our families on that. Like one of the other girls said, I would have to be working 80 to 90 hours a week. I have 3 kids in school and a 1.5-year-old, and that is not physically possible for me. I have an amazing boss that works with my schedule, but I support 5 people on 30 hours a week. That's not even remotely going to come close to happening at $15 an hour. As the other girls have said, it wasn't broke. We don't need it fixed. Not a single one of us makes minimum wage. The majority of us probably on our worst day make at least double minimum wage. And $15 an hour it's going to kill us. It's going to leave families homeless. It's going to leave kids living in vans. This is not something that the restaurant industry and that the people employed by it are going to survive. So we appreciate your attention to fighting for this with us, because if this passes, so many people lose way more than everybody is considering.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I just want to shed some light on some of the great things that we do as servers. I've been waiting tables, bartending for like the last 15 years. Sorry, I'm super nervous. We make an agreement when we sit down with these jobs. It's like a business. Like if you were to go into a salon and rent a chair. I rent a section from a restaurant. They pay me $3 an hour. I make way more than that, but they give me this section for $3 an hour, and as a businesswoman, I can do whatever I would like with that section. How I engage with my guests creates the money. It's like a goal. I can go in there, and I could make $3 an hour. I could go in there, because we all, if we're not making any tips, we're getting paid minimum wage by the company, but I don't think any of us have ever seen minimum wage. Like, if even in a slow season, which we're in right now, we're still making more than the $8 an hour. But I can take my section and make as much money that I want to with that. I've had customers, regulars, pass by, come see me all the time. I have a group of veterans that for 6 years when I was working at Applebee's followed me to wherever location I went to because of the specialized service that I give to these people. It's not a minimum job what we do. I know a lot of people look at us as just servers, but we create an environment. People come in on their lunch rush. We're making sure you guys get in and out on that hour that you have. We're making sure that you get everything that you need. When you come in for a birthday, a funeral, something with your family, we make those moments. We're hosting that, creating that atmosphere. Not one person that comes in gets the same type of service that every other person receives. You have to really know people. Some people want to be talked to, some people don't. Some people, and that's what makes American service so great. Because yes, you could go to Europe and you can get served and you can leave a minimum tip or you don't even have to tip. But the thing that makes it so great is we are earning that with our service. We're earning that money from you guys. A lot of my coworkers, they said, okay, they want to give us this minimum wage, we're going to act like minimum servers. Every time that I'm in a rush, I need to go. It's not going to be that same level of service that the American people are used to getting and appreciate. That's what makes us very different from any other type of service that you're going to get in the rest of the world. And I think it's very confusing for a lot of people because it's looked at as such a minimum job. But people, single mothers, me, a pregnant woman, people in college, like this job does more than you learn values. You learn hard work. You learn the American dream. You can make as much as you want. It's a beautiful thing to do. And I just feel like it's crazy how this all got started up. Like, when did this occur that we didn't even know we've never been a part of the normal bracket of the working people. But all of a sudden now we're a part of the group and people are telling us, well, we know you've been making this, but we know better for you. You guys wouldn't even do our jobs on your worst day. Like, this is not a job that you want to do. And sometimes you can tip $2 and that's satisfactory. There's no law saying anyone has to tip us. We are protected by laws saying that if we don't get tipped, we are going to make a minimum wage. So it's just, why are we even at this point? when we've never been a part of the group. We do get paid, we do have some benefits, but we're exceeding. The great part about this is you can exceed this job. You can do this job and make is a $50,000 a year working 30 hours a week, working and going to school, working 2 jobs. It's amazing what you can do with this job. So don't look at us and look like, oh, we need to help these people. We've been helping ourselves. We've been hustling. We've been doing this.
Appreciate,
So
I appreciate your testimony. We just have a couple of questions that I
Yes.
want to get to. Chair recognizes Representative Schmaltz.
Thank you. And you're right, half of us up here probably would not be able to do your job. So we really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you testifying. I know it's not easy to do. Don't be nervous. We're here to listen to you, and we appreciate all of you. And Amy, thank you for being here from Jackson. And I appreciate you every time, because some of us who don't cook a lot go out a lot. And we appreciate all our... You're not supposed to say that. We appreciate all of our servers, and we know that it's hard work. What I wanted to know is, I've talked to some servers who have said that they've already seen a reduction in tips because they think this is already in place. Have you seen that yet? Amy or anybody?
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
I haven't.
We've heard a lot of conversations about it. I have a lot of customers that, like we mentioned down here, think that this is a great thing for us. They're like, oh, aren't you so excited? You're going to be making $15 an hour. No, I'm not. I average 40 an hour, and I think there is so much misinformation out there because so many people think that this is such an amazing thing for us. Because again, in their eyes, we make $3.65 an hour. People don't realize what we can make in our profession, and to them, $15 an hour is really great. I wouldn't say that I have seen a reduction so far, but I have had lots of conversations about it. I've had lots of people asking me my thoughts on it, lots of people telling us what they would plan to do once it is implemented, and from solid regulars that we've had for years, things might not change for them. But at the same point, when prices in restaurants are going up 20 to 25%, people are going to have to change the way they're tipping regardless. The majority of the feedback that I have gotten from customers that I don't know on a personal level is that they will tip less, because at the end of the day, they don't understand the mechanisms of how we get paid. They don't understand how this works, and they think that we no longer need their tip because we're making $15 an hour before taxes.
And that's why this committee is so important, and having you here to tell everybody what this means for you is so important. So we appreciate you, again, all being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Representative Carter.
Thank you, Chair Schutte. Thank you, ladies, for coming here and testifying today. I have a real quick question. I've got 2 sisters that worked in the industry, and how does this impact Social Security or unemployment? Because during COVID, we had quite a few people that, because of their income, didn't qualify for certain resources. So have we put any considerable thought into what that impact from 15, and I hear you say you make 40, what is that going into the system, if you know? Thank you.
Well, we pay taxes. I mean, I owe taxes at the end of every year. I pay at least $1,500 in taxes. So we're paying into all of these systems. And as servers, we always keep a little, if you've been doing this for a long time, this isn't just something that you're doing to get by. You always know to keep this is our slowest season. We prepare ourselves and keep a little stash on the side. Like, that's the great thing, is we're great money managing. We know what we're doing with our money. It's a seasonal, it gets slow after the holidays, it picks back up in the summer, but we pay taxes. During COVID with unemployment, I didn't have any. We were well taken care of. They made sure servers were highly impacted by it, and I received benefits for that. I know going into Social Security, I don't think anybody my age is going to have any Social Security left. I'm not going to lie to you, but I pay for it. But we always know to keep a savings. We have resources. There's people that are just for us, that help us. We look out for each other. The restaurants and us have a very good system. Like, we work for them, we look out for them. It's a balancing act. We can't do it without each other, and they're very aware of it. So they've had our back fully with this, and this is why we're having each other's back with this.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Can I touch on one thing with the unemployment question?
Briefly.
Obviously, everybody remembers during COVID when we got unemployment and then we got the bonus to unemployment. I personally was not impacted. I didn't have any issues getting unemployment based on my job. But one thing that always stuck out to me is while multiple people were complaining that people were getting paid too much on unemployment, I can almost promise you the majority of our servers were sitting back going, that's still not quite what we make. And that's one thing that, again, when people are pushing for this, they're not realizing what we make. They think that they know better than what we do, and that's not the case, because I know for myself during COVID, I took a pay cut with unemployment, but at least we had it there, and it was a huge help for us. But it's still, even that everybody thought was an excessive amount to be giving people, still didn't make up what we support our families on.
Well, thank you, ladies. Appreciate your testimony, and thank you for being with us. Next, we'll be hearing from Wendy Block, the Senior Vice President of Business Advocacy from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, testifying in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Wendy Block. I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Advocacy for the Michigan Chamber. We are a statewide business organization representing approximately 5,000 Michigan businesses across Michigan. And I come today to speak in support of House Bills 4001 and 4002. I'll spend the majority of my time talking about 4002, but I think we come at this from a bit of a unique perspective in that we represent businesses of all sizes and types and across all industries of Michigan. So we've heard from the small guys, the smallest of the small, the sole proprietors and those 1, 2, 3-man shops, all the way up to some of our state's largest employers. And so just have that unique opportunity to be able to voice some of the concerns that we have heard that kind of had that consistent thread throughout it. So we do support workable and common sense solution to the earned sick time and minimum wage laws. I call it ESTA today. So if you hear me say the word ESTA, it is the Earned Sick Time Act. And ESTA is a big change, even for employers that offer very generous paid time off policies today. Make no mistake, ESTA will be extremely disruptive for businesses and organizations of all sizes and types. And why do I say organizations? Because it's important to realize that ESTA does not just impact your traditional business. This is talked about as a business issue, but it really impacts anyone who employs one or more employees. There are no exemptions in the Earned Sick Time Act today. So that means it impacts your traditional businesses in your district, but it also impacts local school districts, local units of government, nonprofits, including your local churches and the like. So this really does have a widespread impact. And I'm afraid there's a lot of people out there that still have not even heard about ESTA. They don't know what's being required of them, and it is going to get them into some issues if when this goes into effect in 38 days on February 21, and certainly if legislation isn't passed to make this more workable for businesses and other organizations. So the reason, though, that businesses of all sizes and types and organizations are on edge is because of these 38 days that we have remaining. Of course, we had been hoping that legislation would have been passed prior to the end of the last legislative session. Of course, that did not happen, and now we are up against this ticking clock and the February 21 effective date. The decisions ahead are quite difficult. We've heard from a lot of businesses who say, we've talked to our employees about this law and what it requires of them, and they don't want the changes that we have to make. And that is because this law is extremely prescriptive in terms of what it requires of employers. And this idea that it takes a one-size-fits-all approach, regardless of how you are doing things today and what type of organization you are. What do I mean by that? Well, the act is very prescriptive as it relates to things like notification. It says if time off is not foreseeable, the employee only needs to let the employer know as soon as practicable. That is an undefined term in the law today. And you'll hear things today, hopefully in testimony from like the 911 operators who will say, we have core staffing obligations. We can't just have people not showing up for shifts and letting us know maybe a couple days later that it wasn't practicable for them to give us advance notice. Home health care is another example. This is life or death type of situations. We can't take this loose approach to advance notice. Another huge issue is just how that time can be used. So you've got this 72-hour mandate that no one is quibbling with, no one is asking for you to change. We're not looking for any changes, but it's how that time then can be divided up. Under the Earned Sick Time Act, time can be used in the amount of time that you use to track for payroll. For some organizations, that means that 72 hours can be sliced and diced into 1-minute increments, or maybe it's 6-minute increments. That is not workable for a lot of organizations across our state. They have unique needs. Maybe it's a production line where they need to have the full line there. They need to know at the start of the shift, this is who we're dealing with today. Other things exist as well. But if there's one takeaway from today's testimony or my testimony today, and I think you're going to hear it reiterated throughout the course of today, is that this one-size-fits-all approach is not workable, and we need some additional flexibility, like the flexibility provided in House Bill 4002 provides. If you don't make it more flexible, it will be hugely disruptive and problematic for businesses of all sizes and types. And it is putting employers, is backing them into a corner and having to make changes that their employees very well may not like.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Wendy.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. Next, we'll be hearing from Lisa Hall, 911 Director for Midland County, Michael Armitage, 911 Director for Calhoun County, and Barbara Davidson, 911 Director for Ingham County, all testifying in support.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time today to listen to our testimony. I am Lisa Hall, the Director for Midland County 911, also representing the Michigan Communications Directors Association. All three of us will be able to answer any questions that you have. We just want to share quickly how the impact of the Earned Sick Time Act will affect us and a little bit of support for 4002. While we recognize and appreciate the intent of the Earned Sick Time Act to support employees in maintaining their health and well-being, we firmly believe that this legislation as written poses significant challenges for emergency response operations in the communities we serve. As 911 directors, we take the health and well-being of our staff very seriously. Many of our 911 centers are already faced with severe staffing shortages that result in forced overtime, stressful job duties, and the personal sacrifices that come with working shift work in our organizations. While ensuring that employees have access to leave time is crucial to health and well-being, it is just as crucial for us to be able to protect them from misuse and abuse of leave time. This increases forced overtime, decreases morale, and begins a vicious circle of employees calling out last minute just to get a day off. As Wendy spoke to, the language in the Act that allows employees to call in as soon as practicable causes a loophole that allows for last-minute absences with no accountability. For emergency response services, this ambiguity can result in shifts with no coverage, leaving employees and the public at risk. This gives me great pause. We have a responsibility to ensure reliable staffing and coverage in order to protect our communities. We have to be ready and prepared for the unthinkable at any time. To illustrate quickly, imagine you're a 911 dispatcher who is approaching shift relief at the end of a 12-hour shift after working 7 days in a row because of mandated overtime. Imagine on this day, during the dozens of calls you've answered, you've helped deliver a baby over the phone, you've listened to cries and screams of a domestic assault victim for 20 minutes while you waited for deputies to arrive. You sent the fire department to a house fire where the homeowner has run back inside to rescue their pets. You jumped into quick action on the radio when officers requested assistance with an armed suspect. You approached the end of your shift. You answer a heartbreaking call requesting an ambulance from a caller whose loved one has ended their life. At the end of this emotionally and physically demanding day, you are so looking forward to your shift relief to walk through the door. They don't show. You now have to work beyond your 12-hour shift of your 7-day stint to make sure the community and responders are taken care of, while supervisors scramble to find coverage to make sure your shift relief is okay. This scenario is not hypothetical. This is a reality we work with every day to mitigate. We have worked hard collaborating with our employees to implement policies that allow flexibility for last-minute call-outs while providing limitations that curb abuse. In my center particularly, I've worked really hard with my team to eliminate this abuse with our policies and procedures. We still have last-minute call-outs, don't get me wrong. People get sick and life happens. But we have been able to bring awareness to impacts, limit abuse, and provide additional compensation, and have the ability to take action to protect the majority if it's needed. This has also allowed me to maintain a combined leave bank for my employees. This means that all of their leave time is in one bank. We do not have a separate sick bank. If this act is unchanged, I will have to pull out a sick bank because it is not responsible for me to allow our employees to have 400 to 500 hours of annual leave that they could use with no call, no show, no recourse. That is not healthy for my staff. My employees do not want this. My employees do not want to go back to a time of unpredictability, more forced last-minute overtime, and no ability for me to curb and take care of abuse.
Thank you. And we have already gone over 3 minutes. So do we have any questions from the members of the committee? Yep. Representative Carter.
Thank you, Chair Schutte. Thank you for bringing this to the attention. Most of your organizations have policies and procedures governing sick time abuse, punctuality. How would this impact that?
Do you want to answer so you have a chance to talk to? It would completely change they would make them null and void, essentially.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you all coming forward today. We will next be hearing from Elijah Taub and Sam Taub from One Fair Wage testifying in opposition.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Sam. Elijah couldn't make it today. So my name is Sam Taub, and in addition to working with One Fair Wage, I have been a server in Michigan for the past 9 years. I currently live in Hazel Park, and I work in that area. I'm here on behalf of the many Michigan restaurant workers who did sign a petition to raise our minimum wage to $15 an hour with tips on top, who were unable to make it to this committee hearing, as we did only find out about it last night, and many of them were unable to get off of work for the morning. We are asking you to uphold the Supreme Court's decision to give us a raise because we believe that tipped workers, like every other worker, deserve to have our wages paid for by our employers and not by our customers. The system where most of our income comes from tips is one where we have to put up with immense amounts of harassment in order to earn those tips. There is a reason why the restaurant industry has higher reports of sexual and other forms of harassment compared to any other industry. A personal example, if you'll excuse my language, I went up to a table and because they ordered alcohol, I checked their IDs, as I am required to do, and the person responded by calling me a bitch to my face and requesting another server. This was at the end of the month, and I ended up having to take another shift in order to make enough to pay my rent. I know that there are many people here who are afraid that their tips will go away, but there is data from all of the other states where these policies are implemented. This data comes from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics that says that across the board, tips still average around 16%. There is no evidence that we would make less money. There is no evidence that people will stop tipping because that did not happen in any of the other states with this law in place. A million people here in Michigan have signed petitions in order to put $15 an hour plus tips on top onto these into law. And I believe that as our legislators and as our representatives, you do have a duty to represent us and to put this into effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Regas.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. My question is about what's best for Michigan servers and restaurants. In Massachusetts, the tipped credit elimination was put on the ballot and was rejected by Massachusetts voters by 2-1. The Democrat governor even had said that she worked in the restaurant industry, which her tips paid for her college degree. In Chicago and D.C., just this week, both cities were taking steps back to walk back the elimination of the tip credit. In D.C., 1,000 jobs were lost the first year. It's estimated the number could reach up to 4,000. In Portland, the tipped credit was eliminated, and then the servers forced it to be reinstated. Here in Michigan, it's been estimated that 3,000 restaurants did not survive Governor Whitmer's actions during COVID. Now, under this, it's estimated 1 in 5 restaurants will close if we do not correct this. So how can you sit here and lecture servers and restaurant owners when nationally, I have to say the elimination of the tip credit has been an absolute failure? And one more question. Where does your organized one fair wage originate, please?
First, I would like to say that just because One Fair Wage is a national organization, it does not mean that they don't represent workers here in Michigan.
Mike, with all due respect, my question was, where does this organization originate?
My boss is currently located in California. But
Perfect. Thank you.
I would like to say, however, though, that I have lived in Michigan my entire life. I was born here, and I plan on living in Michigan until I die. I believe that as a worker and as a server, I am not just here on behalf of One Fair Wage. I am also a server. I still work in the restaurant industry, and I intend to remain in the restaurant industry. The things that we're asking for is to be able to have a consistent wage. We have no way of knowing when we clock in how much money we're going to make that day. There are days where you walk out making $20. You can't force people to come into a restaurant. You can't force them to tip you appropriately. But you can request that your employers pay you an adequate amount.
But that's the beauty about the tip wage, is that the harder you work and the more successful you are, the higher your wage will become.
I would like to point out that many servers face many forms of sexual harassment, racial discrimination. There are many biases that go into how and when we are tipped. The average restaurant worker in this country is going to be a black woman. And quite frankly, as a black person in the United States, I do face harassment and discrimination that has absolutely nothing to do with my work performance. And my income should not be impacted by other people's biases.
And with all due respect, sexual harassment is not the reason for this hearing. This hearing is to address the tip credit and how we can advocate for the businesses of Michigan to get a better policy in place, because under this policy, like I said, 1 in 5 businesses, restaurants will close in Michigan, and maybe the location you work at will be one of them if this doesn't get addressed.
All right. Thank you, Representative Regas. Appreciate your testimony. Sam, thank you for your testimony as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And next we'll be hearing from Brian Calley, President and CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, and Charity Dean, President and CEO of Michigan Black Business Alliance, testifying in support.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Schutte and members of the committee. I am Charity Dean. I am the President and CEO of the Michigan Black Business Alliance. Our mission is to help close the racial wealth gap by creating programs and advocating for policies that result in profitable and sustainable Black-owned businesses across Michigan. We are a 3-year-old organization with nearly 2,000 members across the state, and we're growing every day. Today, I urge your support for House Bill 4002, which amends the Earned Sick Time Act by creating small business exemptions and simplifying compliance requirements. Our advocacy for this bill is grounded in equity. Equity acknowledges that small businesses, and particularly Black-owned ones, do not operate with the same resources and opportunities as larger ones. Subjecting them to the same regulatory standards ignores their disparities and risks, and it challenges our economy. Black-owned businesses are significantly more likely to face loan denials or receive smaller loans compared to other businesses. 53% of Black-owned businesses identify lack of access to capital as a top challenge. There are revenue gaps for small businesses compared to larger ones and for Black-owned businesses as well. They generate an average of $58,000 in average revenue compared to $546,000 for white-owned businesses. Organizations like Goldman Sachs and the Brookings Institute have studied the racial wealth gap in our country, and specifically, the Kellogg Foundation studied it in the state of Michigan and found that if we close that gap in the state of Michigan, our state stood to gain $92 billion in its economy. Additionally, small businesses and many of our members lack the dedicated compliance teams and HR necessary to navigate the complex regulations. But even more, I'm a small business owner. I own a small cafe called Rosa, named after my great-grandmother in the Rosedale Park neighborhood. And like many of my members, many small businesses, we feel that oftentimes we are over-regulated and under-resourced. Legislation like this compares my small coffee shop like Rosa and puts us under the same regulatory climate as a Starbucks. We're not Starbucks. I think we're better. But I think that we should really we are actually better. But the inequities that impact small businesses impact our commercial corridors. The folks that work at Rosa live in the neighborhood. I know them. I know their families. I know their challenges. Regulations like this interfere with my relationship with my employers, but it also puts me on an unfair playing field. I think the neighbors of Grandmont Rosedale would be disappointed to see that we would have to compete and actually produce in ways that folks in larger corporations have to do. And so we're asking you to support this bill, because the good news about the bill is that it doesn't eliminate the workers' rights, but it does something that I think even the opposition cares about, which is it brings equity to the process. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to visiting Rosa sometime. So thank you. Brian.
Very good. And congratulations to Charity and her team in building an outstanding organization. Incredible in 3 years to have built the Michigan Black Business Alliance to what it is today. My name is Brian Callie, and I'm privileged to lead the Small Business Association of Michigan, which is an organization that exists solely to serve Michigan's entrepreneurs in small businesses, which are the lifeblood of Michigan's economy. We have over 30,000 members spread over every single county in our state and every industry that you can think of, and a bunch of industries you probably have never thought of. In my 6 years at the helm at SBAM, I have never seen the level of concern, fear, and frustration that we are seeing from entrepreneurs today and associated with the Earned Sick Time Act. It's easy to take small businesses for granted, but because they are the main economic infrastructure across most of our communities. But they're really quite fragile. About half don't even make it to the 5-year mark. Our surveys show that the vast majority of the members of the Small Business Association of Michigan already offer paid time off. So you shouldn't receive this testimony as small business owners opposing something that they already commonly do without a government mandate. The Earned Sick Time Act is a highly complex, overly specific, and very expensive mandate that forces a one-size-fits-all program across the entire business community, who often compete for employees through flexibility in responding to the asks and demands and needs of their employees. So I have 3 points. The first is small business owners do rely on maximum flexibility to compete with larger employers. Those larger employers operate on a much larger scale. Small businesses tend to allow employees to fit their work into their life instead of expecting them to fit their life into their work. But under this act, even front-loaded benefits that meet the mandated level don't relieve business owners from having to keep meticulous track of exactly when employees are working in order to calculate the accruals. This threatens the culture of flexibility that small businesses have worked so hard to develop with their teams. Number 2, small business owners listen to their teams and respond to their compensation needs and requests. The Earned Sick Time Act mandates a very specific and expensive benefit that our surveys show misses the mark when it comes to employee preferences. 75% of our members report that higher compensation is the top ask. Growth opportunities and health insurance coming in at number 2 and 3. Paid time off was number 4, but even then, paid time off, flexible paid time off is the ask, not a narrow type of paid time off. Not surprisingly, our surveys also show that small business owners responded with paying higher wages, giving more flexibility and expanding benefits that matched the employee demands. The Earned Sick Time Act will divert resources away from things employees want and make small business owners less competitive and employees less satisfied. Third, small business owners do not have a huge staff. And I won't get deep into this because I don't think I could say it any better than Charity did, but there is such a huge disadvantage that small business owners face when it comes to complying with regulations such as this. Finally, let me say that the Earned Sick Time Act has certain provisions that presume small business owner is guilty until proven innocent. Small business owners are the heroes of Michigan's economy. A guilty until proven innocent law is both unreasonable and deeply offensive to people that have the courage to start a small business against such extraordinary odds. Taking this legislation up first sends a strong message that you support entrepreneurs and small businesses. So I want to thank you for putting action, real action, behind the sentiment of being pro-small business. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Whitsitt.
I just wanted to say, very nice to meet you. I have heard about your organization, but it's very nice to put a face to it. I'm at Plymouth and Shaper, so I'm right there. I know what you mean, and that's very much a growing area. So I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. It makes a huge difference, and that's going to creep on down Grand River. So I'm looking forward to the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep.
Representative Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for showing up here today. Real quick question. When you landed on the 40 employees or less, is that based on a 40-hour week? Because I know some places, if they have 3 shifts or if they expand, they have to expand. And will there be accommodations for that, or is this based on Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type schedule?
I'm going to let Ryan answer, but I will say this, simplicity matters, right? FMLA is 50 employees or less, and that makes sense, and that's where we stand as an organization. But I'll let Brian.
Yeah, I would agree that there is a precedent for a 50 employee threshold that already exists, that is a nationwide standard, and it's one that you would typically find in laws like this. I think that would be a great place to start.
All right. Brian, Charity, thank you very much for testifying. Next, we'll be hearing from the Grand Rapids Chamber, Joshua Lunger, their Vice President of Government Affairs, as well as Chris Andrews, founder of Mitten Brewing, Jill Maloney, Vice President of Human Resources at Plune Service Company, and Cynthia Narber, CEO of DK Security.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Josh Lunger. I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Grand Rapids Chamber. We represent almost 3,000 employers across Greater West Michigan, and like many of the speakers here today, this is the cloud hanging over all the other great stuff that's happening in our region and our state. The level of engagement, I think Brian hit on this well, that we've seen, we can't even host a meeting without filling up every chair in our office on this topic. There's still so much uncertainty. There's still so much demand. There's still so much confusion about why these rules, why now, who wanted this. And so I just want to start by thanking you for the urgency with which you're putting behind this issue. The clock is ticking, and again, every day, we're taking calls from employers who are trying to explain to their teams why they have to change their policies and that it's not their fault. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to some of our members who are going to share how it's, in reality, how the practical impact is going to be on their employers.
Thanks. Chair Schutte and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Chris Andrews. I am the co-owner of the Mitten Brewing Company, a microbrewery and restaurant with 4 retail locations here in Michigan. And I'm here to talk about why saving the tip credit is a bipartisan imperative. I am the co-founder of the Michigan Restaurant Promise, which was formed to uphold the governor's health and safety guidelines during the COVID-19 lockdowns. Additionally, my company has guaranteed a $15 an hour minimum wage since back in 2021. And in 2023, I testified in front of a Senate committee urging them to amend the State Civil Rights Act to include protections for sexual orientation and gender identity. In short, I have voted Democrat my entire adult life, and so has the majority of my front of house staff. And today we are united with this Republican-led bipartisan committee by our desire to preserve the tip credit. My team members, like the 80 to 90% of tipped workers in favor of keeping the credit, know from experience that rising menu prices and falling guest counts are ultimately worse for their take-home pay. And they fear that on February 21st, that problem will go from bad to catastrophic. And this isn't just speculation. Tomorrow, legislators in Washington, D.C. will hear public testimony for the second time on the disastrous consequences that have followed the elimination of their tip credit in November of 2022. In the 12 months prior to that elimination, D.C. full-service restaurants had added 3,900 jobs. After the tip credit was gone, they lost 1,900 of them and counting. In fact, full-service restaurants in D.C. lost jobs in every single month in 2024. 64 restaurant closures in the district as of October of last year, easily surpassing the previous 2 years. Labor costs among the survivors increased by an average of 25%, and operators were forced to institute steep service fees, up to 20% of customer bills, just to survive. DC's experience gives us a sobering look at the actual effect of, and not rhetoric behind, tip credit elimination on a major city. It's a real-life case study that takes us beyond politics and anecdotes and emotional appeals. It's a real example of a real disaster for real people. So in the interest of time, I'll cut to the chase. I'd like to leave you with the following. Our team members in our restaurants don't care about adopt and amend. They don't care about what happened in lame duck. They care about what's right in front of them, and that's their livelihood. And what's right in front of you are these House bills and their companion bills in the Senate. So let's join Maine, Massachusetts, and D.C. Let's reach across the aisle, find a compromise, reject the out-of-state interest groups, and do what's right for Michigan. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Schutte and committee members. I am Jill Malone, and I am representing Plume Service Company. We are a mechanical contractor. We have offices in Grand Rapids and here in Lansing. We are an employee-owned company, and we have been in business for over 50 years. I represent our people not only as an employee owner myself, but as a corporate officer and a co-trustee of our ESOP trust. So for 36 years, I have had fiduciary responsibilities to make great decisions for our employees, which I take very seriously. The ESTA law as written is quite concerning to our employees. We've been very upfront with them. Probably for the last 6 months, this has been ongoing communication. If this law is passed, our current attendance policy really isn't worth the paper it's written on. The inability to be able to hold people accountable for attendance will undermine our commitment to customer service and damage our reputation in the marketplace. Our foremen, project managers, and schedulers specifically are extremely concerned about the ability to meet our customer needs because at any moment, employees can willfully just abuse this system and call in, and now we have the burden on the team that is out on a project and they are understaffed. So this puts a huge burden on that team, and then we may not meet our responsibility with our employees, which we have contractually with them. The employer's hands are tied from an accountability standpoint because we are not allowed to use our attendance program if they cite ESTA as a reason for not coming to work. We are a skilled trade business trying to survive a skilled trade shortage. This is going to make it even more difficult for us to hire at every level possible within the skilled trade. We have a very generous and flexible PTO system right now that actually was implemented 15 years ago by our employee owners. We used to have the sick bucket and the vacation bucket. And it was their idea to combine everything into PTO, paid time off, and let us use it and take it honestly as we want to. Their comment to me now is, are we splitting the bucket going backwards? Yes, you might net me back out to where I am because you're going to take some of the PTO and throw it in that sick bucket. But now I'm going to have to lie to take that ESTA just so I don't lose what I have now. I'm not comfortable with being asked to do that. Why can't we just leave it as is? A couple have mentioned, hey, we're operating under the PMLA. Why can't we keep them in that same form where you let us take our time however we choose to? And that is their request, and that is my request. Last week, I had to prepare 2 offer letters, one for a highly skilled tradesperson and one for an administrative professional. Inside of that offer letter, I have never had to say PTO to be determined based on ESTA. So prior to sending that out to them, I had a conversation saying, don't be surprised by this, but I knew they would be. To say they were hesitant, was not surprising. And so we tried to assure them that, yes, we want to get you to what your ask is. And because I'm not comfortable putting together an offer letter that the minute they start 38 days from now basically is a lie.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us and allowing us to meet with you. I am going to echo a lot of what Jill just shared with you. My name is Cynthia Narber. I'm the president of DK Security. We've been providing physical security services in Michigan for 30 years now. We have about just shy of 1,900 employees, and we're all over the place from the UP, east side of the state. We have an office here in Lansing. Our corporate headquarters is in Kentwood, and we also have an office in Troy. One of the unique challenges for us is right now we operate under the current PMLA Act, and it works out well for us because our employees notify us and provide documentation if they're going to be absent. We're able to backfill them and provide the security services that you all expect us to provide. That's going to change under this act because nobody is required to provide us with notice. What's practicable to the employee isn't necessarily practicable to the employer and our clients. So that makes it a challenge. What we would like to ask for is that it's very simple. We just be allowed to ask for notice without it falling back on us to pay for a doctor's note in order to provide the security services that the people of Michigan expect of us. We provide security for every base in Michigan. There's 7 National Guard bases. Those guys and gals are all armed. And if they have the liberty of saying, I'm not coming in today, that's a problem because security forces is also struggling within the bases. So we just ask you to consider that. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. And I enjoy peanuts and Cracker Jacks from Mitten Brewing, by the way. So thank you. All right. Next, we will be hearing from Amy Grossi and Christina Reynolds from the Bavarian Inn Restaurant. And they'll be testifying in support.
Good morning, Chairman Schutte. Thank you for having us. My name is Amy Zender-Grassi, and I'm part of the 4th generation that owns and operates the Bavarian Inn Restaurant and Lodge. Losing the tip credit would have devastating effects on our business, our guests, and our team members. I just keep asking who wants this and who does it benefit? Currently, we work with 175 servers in our business. Elimination of the tip credit equates to over $1 million increases in server payroll. We can't just absorb that cost. We would be out of business in over a year. We will be forced to raise our prices significantly, which we know would deter visitors, especially families who love to experience the charm of Frankenmuth. Additionally, we would likely have to reduce team member hours or even cut jobs. Currently, our servers typically make an average of 25 to 30 hours. Christina tells me today that's on a bad day. I've heard the argument that servers will still receive tips, even if they're paid a higher hourly rate. They may receive some, I agree. but not at the current level and not sustaining. If we have to raise prices so much, our guests will not be able to afford to eat with us. Less guests mean less opportunity for our servers to make those tips. I'm sure you've seen the polling data. 56% of Michigan voters would dine out less. 45% of voters were likely to tip less. And 76% of Michigan voters want the legislature to intervene. As someone who grew up in this industry and watched generations of team members build their lives around their work and our restaurant, I know that it's crucial that we protect the tip credit. We urge policymakers to consider the voice of the servers that are here today. Really listen to them, hear what they have to say. Please act now to help businesses, help servers, and ultimately Michigan families that just want to go out and have a nice meal. And I'd like to turn it over to Christina to share her. Christina's one of our servers.
Hello. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you for taking time to hear our perspective today. It makes us feel valued. So I do thank you for your time. As a server, I have been in the industry on and off for 30 years. I have experience managing a facial trauma surgeon's office, managing casinos, other management experience. I come back to the hospitality industry because I love people. I love serving people. I love making their dine-in experience a wonderful thing, making memories that last a lifetime with their family. How this impacts me is that I have the flexibility to make as much as the person in front of me has the heart to tip. It's really in the hands of the person that's before me. So I've had them where they tip me $0, $2, 5%. I've had them where they tip me well over, and I'm given a $100 bill. So it's really the beauty of the design right now is that it's really up to the person, the guest in front of me, what they want to give. And if by chance I've had a bad day, which I can tell you I never have had it, we're a restaurant, about 7 or 10 different restaurants over my 30 years. I've never had one had to make up to minimum wage. Now, for me, I know a lot of people work for $15 an hour, and I'm not trying to downplay those industries where you make that and then you go out to eat, and some people say, how come you're better and I have to tip you this when I only make 15 myself? Well, the beauty of it is I don't know your financial circumstance. You tip what's on your heart that day, okay, when you go out to eat. I forgot my second thought, but to narrow down this is that the flexibility, and I'm protected. So I would ask, not that you disregard the people that are wanting help, that they don't feel like they're getting help, but just we're smart people in Michigan. Let's put our heads together and be creative to help one group of people that's asking for help without causing so much harm to another group.
Thank you.
Because it would.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Chair recognizes Representative Beerline.
Thank you, Mr. Schutte. Chair Schutte, sorry. So, Amy, this is kind of for you. You're coming from the state's #1 tourist destination. So a small town, 5,000 people, you go to 30 to 50,000 every weekend. They come there for hospitality. One of the things that we're trying to make sure we're getting right is between the tipped wage, and then you add on the ESTA on top of that. So you have servers who are trying really hard to provide great hospitality and get good tips, and now they might have double the tables that they were supposed to. Have you guys started to look into how you think this is going to affect your business model?
We have. We don't want to change our business model. We want to provide excellent guest service. Christina can tell you, we have a 3-table section. That's not a lot of tables because we want our servers to be able to provide that personalized service to each guest. We're going to have to change our model. We've talked around different ideas. We're all holding our breath, hoping that you'll act and help us get to a compromise here. But we will have to change how we operate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies, appreciate you coming to testify. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll be hearing from Ryan Seabolt representing the Michigan AFL-CIO, testifying in opposition to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm testifying in opposition to both HB 4001 and 4002. I'm Ryan Siebold, the Director of Government Affairs for the Michigan AFL-CIO. We represent over 1 million active and retired Michigan workers of more than 40 unions throughout the state. It is interesting to note that while the title of this committee claims it is to protect Michigan employees, both pieces of legislation referred to this committee actually harm Michigan employees. These bills will reduce wages and benefits for Michigan workers, and doing so does not protect them. HB 4001 does nothing to help Michigan's struggling working families. In fact, it will, as written, the bill is a pay cut to your constituents from the pay increases mandated by the Supreme Court ruling last year. If you vote for this bill, you'll be voting to cut the pay of your constituents by 48 cents an hour to $1.16 an hour starting in February of this year. That represents nearly $1,000 to $2,400 annual pay cut to your constituents if they're a full-time employee. Furthermore, you'll be voting to lock in a permanent pay cut to your constituents by delaying the CPI-adjusted increase to the year after which was mandated by the state Supreme Court. It also needs to be made clear that phasing out the tipped wage does not end tipping. Any claims that it does so is false. Nothing in the Citizens Initiative nor the Supreme Court ruling mandate an end to the practice of tipping. Data published by USA Today last week shows that while California has the highest hourly wage for their servers, they also have the highest average tips at 22%. HB 4002 is also deeply flawed legislation that harms employees by making earned sick time leave inaccessible to many. Perhaps the most egregious is limiting the earned sick time policy to employers with more than 50 employees. I am not aware of any other state that makes that cutoff for their earned sick leave policies. According to the Michigan Department of Labor, more than 96% of the state's private business firms have fewer than 50 workers. If you vote for this legislation, you will be telling large portions of your constituents that they do not deserve the benefit of earned sick leave. In order to live up to the name of the Select Committee and truly protect employees, these bills should be rejected.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Fairbairn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Siebold, you had mentioned that our constituents would be making a lot less. I'd be curious where you're getting those numbers and if you can share those, because from my interactions with my constituents in northern Michigan and the eastern Upper Peninsula, your basis is totally off.
That is based on what the state Supreme Court ruling would mandate the minimum wage to be versus what the minimum wage would be for those years as written by the law. So if you compare the difference in wages, this year you would be 48 cents less than what the state Supreme Court mandates for the minimum wage to be.
But you see, we have so many people in Michigan who are making well over minimum wage right now that this wouldn't apply to. We've heard from our restaurant workers and our tipped workers that they make $30, $40 an hour. I just don't see where this is adding up.
You would still be implementing a pay cut to minimum wage workers in your district based on the Supreme Court ruling and what the mandated schedule is in this legislation.
Mr. Siebold, I'd like to ask a question. So you talked about how tipping wouldn't be mandated to go away, but we've heard a lot of testimony today from restaurant workers and restaurant owners that discussed how they'd have to raise the prices, how their costs would go up, and we see that reflected on menus as well. So, I mean, who's then going to be paying this additional cost?
I mean, as somebody who frequently does like to eat out, if I were to order a $20 meal, I'm expected to tip $4 on that meal in order to subsidize the sub-minimum wage of the server providing me that meal. So if the restaurant charges me $20 and I pay $24 in tip, or they charge me $24, my expenses as the consumer is the same. So then the question is it really just a hidden cost to me that's not on the menu price when I go out to eat?
But you mentioned that people would still tip on additions. Then you pay $28, $30.
I absolutely I prefer to be one of the people who tips close to 30%. But yes, the data shows. A matter of fact, data from the restaurant software company Toast shows that in one fair wage states, the average tip is 18.8%. And in states that allow the subminimum wage, the average tip is 19.5%. So a slight difference, but the one fair wage states are taking home a higher hourly pay. So the tips are relatively the same.
No, if you're tipping 30%, I hope you visit my friend Becky at Buffalo Wild Wings in Midland. So next we'll be recognizing Pauline Wenzel, Representative Wenzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question. How many servers does your union represent?
We do not currently have any restaurant workers as part of our union.
Thank you.
We would love to have some, though, if they're
Chair
interested.
recognizes Representative Schmaltz.
As was stated before, I mean, we've heard from businesses and servers, and most businesses already pay way above the minimum wage, so that's really not an issue here. And we've heard from servers, and of course we talked about different states that have this and how it's been detrimental in the tipping department. So our job as lawmakers is to make sure that our existing businesses and workers do the best they can in this state, and then to attract other businesses and workers from other states. This goes against both of those. How can you sit there and say that this is good for business and this is good for every worker, and you don't even represent servers?
I will start off by saying that this legislation does not just address the tipped wage credit, but also the minimum wage. And it does reflect a pay cut in minimum wage to minimum wage
Most businesses
workers.
already pay above the minimum wage right now.
But not everybody makes above the minimum wage. Is that correct, Representative? And I will say also that a study conducted, I believe, by the Economic Policy Institute between 2011 and 2019 showed that one fair wage states actually had a higher growth in restaurants at 17.5% and a higher growth in full-service restaurant employment at 23.8% versus states that maintain a subminimum wage that have the restaurant growth at only 11.1% and the employment growth at 18.7%. So we're actually seeing a higher restaurant opening and employment based on one fair wage states for subminimum wage states.
I guarantee if these bills don't pass that you will not see any growth in this state. You'll see businesses closing and servers losing their jobs and people paying more when they go to restaurants.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Whitsett.
Hi, in Detroit and in the area that I live in, what the mayor has been able to do and to filter money in that direction, everything is built up around there based on small businesses and our restaurants. That's where we go. Before that, people were going to the gas station as their grocery store. So this makes a huge difference for my community. If this was to go into effect, it would shut down all the work that the mayor has done and all the work and effort I put into it. I was a waitress before. On a bad day, I made $300. That was on a bad day. On a great day, I could make $1,000. I know people who make six figures. So I just wanted to say this just does not make sense.
I myself waited tables for 4 years. That's how I put myself through college, so I understand that. My God, but again, as the facts show from other states that we've actually seen that people get a minimum wage plus tips.
But you're talking from your experience. You just said you did that.
Yes, I did, and I believe I would have preferred to make a minimum wage plus tips.
So that means a choice you wanted, which means you could have went somewhere else that paid that amount of money, because people who do that love their job.
I loved my job too.
Well, then you make
Thank you,
more
Representative
tips.
Whitsett. We appreciate your question. We're going to recognize Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have any children?
I do not.
Are you married?
I'm not quite sure what this interview process is, but yes, I'm married. No, I do not have children.
So you don't have any children. So right now in Michigan, families are struggling, and to go out to eat is a luxury. A simple fast food meal is over $30 for a family of four, which is unattainable for most people. So when we are now hearing that many restaurants across the state of Michigan, including one in Farmington Hills, has already begun to put a surcharge at the bottom of the bill because they don't want to have to raise the cost of food for their constituents. Families are not going to be able to go out to eat. So a married man that doesn't have any children and doesn't understand what it costs to feed a family probably shouldn't sit up there and say that everything's going to be okay.
I think Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I think it making
Yeah.
assumptions about my personal life not necessarily fair to committee testimony.
All right.
But
Well, thank you. We're gonna recognize Representative Regas for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What isn't fair is that you are sitting there saying that you know best for the tipped workers of the state of Michigan. You don't represent tipped workers. You're not a tipped worker. The language that you're speaking is not indicative of who's in this group, right? You don't represent the tipped workers, but we do. So for you to sit there and say that you know best for the people of this state is at best laughable, because you don't. You can't identify with the single mother who's paying for her bills and her mortgage with her tips that she relies on. For you to say that these people will get a raise, that is false, because the average server in the state makes $30 an hour, and you think that giving them $15 an hour is some sort of gift from above. They have I'm not done. They have the freedom to make the wage.
Representative Regas, I appreciate your sentiment. We're gonna ask people to ask questions here. Representative
I
Bierlein.
do have a question.
Okay. Oh yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Let me think of one really quick.
Okay. We're gonna go to Representative Bierlein. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So you do represent unionized employees throughout the state of Michigan. All of the things in this legislation, are you able to bargain for?
many of it is, but we are also concerned.
So there's a lot of people that chose not to be in a union. Why are you trying to bargain for them in front of this committee?
We are also concerned with lifting the wage for all workers in Michigan. Again, I want to remind you that this legislation addresses the minimum wage, not just the tipped wage, but both. And the other legislation addresses earned sick leave policy as well.
Okay, so
and we believe that all workers benefit when they have access to sick leave and when their wages go up. I think that everybody should recognize that all workers benefit when their wages go up and when they can take leave when they are sick to be with their families.
So you have the option to go out to these people who aren't currently bargained for and ask to represent them. And they're choosing not to be represented. They're asking us to fix this piece of legislation. They're asking us to represent them now. So to come in and say that we're not doing that we're going to cut their pay is disingenuous. And you have the option to do it for them.
This does cut the pay based on the schedule prescribed by the Michigan Supreme
Mr.
Court.
Siebold, I appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much. So committee, we are going to take a 5-minute break. Come back here, please, at 12:15, and the committee will stand at ease. Call the chair. The committee will come to order. All right, so I appreciate everybody's patience here, and I think we've had more than an hour of really robust testimony. I appreciate that. Here's how we're going to do this. We're going to have another half an hour of testimony. I have my iPhone here. It has a timer set to 2 minutes. You're gonna speak for 2 minutes. It's gonna go off, and then we're gonna take questions, move on to the next one. So we're gonna do our best to accommodate as many of the additional people we have to testify here as possible, and then those who aren't able to testify, I invite you to please. Submit your written testimony to the committee, and we'll be sure to review it. So next up, we have from Railtown Brewery, Justin Boyer, Amanda Fisk, Heidi Newmeyer, Matt Rios, and they are testifying in support.
There we go. These are my people. Oh, Tony Noto, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Committee members, we appreciate the time. I hopped in with one of our members. I'm Scott Graham, the Executive Director of the Michigan Brewers Guild, but in the effort to save some time, I'll just be real brief, but our association represents breweries throughout the state. There are more than 350 breweries. They're overwhelmingly very small, mom and pop type operations. In many cases, they've revitalized main streets in downtowns. The last few years have been extremely trying, and I can tell you that these two bills are causing a great amount of uncertainty and anxiety within our industry. It's the main topic of conversation, and we're very hopeful that these bills will pass and get your support. And with that, I will turn it over to Justin Buter, who's the owner and founder of Railtown Brewing Company in Dutton, Michigan.
Hello, thank you for having us out here this morning. It's been 6 years of this stuff going back and forth, dating all the way back to 2018. We're very much looking forward to some finality on this topic and having our time to speak our minds on it. I'm going to quickly run through my notes here. Those in support of the wage law as it stands right now are missing a point here. They want you to believe that you get your cake and you eat it too. We're going to raise wages and we're going to tip on top. Reality is that that's not going to be the case. It's going to be a trade-off. Those tipped wages are going to turn into hourly wages, and those tips are going to disappear, either by the consumer's decision or as an employer's decision. When I'm paying labor at the rates that we're talking about, the increases that we're talking about going from $5 an hour to $15 an hour, I'm going to be forced to get more efficient. I'm going to look to technology. I'm going to eliminate staff. If you enjoy your experience at McDonald's right now ordering from an iPad, get ready for it. It's coming to all your restaurants. Going back to 2019. All
right.
Wow. Oh, we don't.
We got a lot of testimony to hear. Do we have any questions? Yeah. Do we have any questions? All right. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Yep, Angela. Yeah.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Representative Regas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, my constituents. I really appreciate it. And since you didn't get to go through all of your notes there, Justin, can you tell me exactly what changes would have to be made if this did not get fixed?
If the tip credit did not get fixed?
Correct.
We would be looking at a pretty small increase next year in that tipped wage. That goes all the way to $181,000 by the time 2028 comes around. We'll be eliminating staff. We'll be looking to technology. It will become a less personable experience. On the sick pay side, can I just echo some statements that have been made? It is not the benefit that my employees want. We took a survey. The number one benefit is health insurance. What good is it to have ESTA if you can't go see your doctor when you're sick? It's great you can take a day off, but if you lose your health insurance because of it, this is what we're looking at. There's going to be trade-offs, and I, as the employer, have to make sure that I have a bottom line and can support my community and my team and my family going forward.
And a question for Amanda. So, Amanda, what would your livelihood look like if you had to heavier pay cut to $15 an hour? Because it is a pay cut, just so we're all clear.
Yeah. Currently, I'm actually the general manager now. I've been, 2 years or so working in management, but I looked over all of my old files of income, and I was on average making approximately $25 to $35 an hour, even through the pandemic. So even the year I think that we were closed for 2 years or 2 months, I made more money than any other year working 35 hours a week. It would literally cut my income in half. And now from the other side, on the management side, I now have to look at my friends who I have been working with and now I'm managing, and I have to decide which one of them to essentially fire to make room to pay everybody else more and make sure that everybody that's left is still able to make the hourly that they need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Again, apologize for the brevity, but appreciate you guys coming. All right, next we will have Kevin Abdullah, Pietra Grillo, and Cynthia Hummel, all from Juan Miguel's Restaurant, testifying in support.
Juan Miguel's. Obviously, everybody's just kind of said the same thing. This is the one thing where customers, employees, and the owners are all against it. So why are we even debating it?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, or good afternoon, should I say. Just to touch on base with how many relationships we've made serving, how many people feel special. They come out to eat. They are looking for an experience. With the increase in the minimum wage, servers are going to look at it as a job. But I go to work, I'm happy to see all of the regular faces. I get to meet new people. I get to make their experiences special. That's all.
First off, I want to thank you guys.
Chair recognizes Representative Robinson. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Schutte. Thank you. First off, I want to thank you guys and everybody who braved this cold and horrible weather to come out here. But I wanted to ask you, Kevin, if this isn't rectified, what does this mean for your business?
So it definitely means we're going up in pricing at maybe an 18% service charge to make up the difference. Gonna have to get rid of some staff and maybe look to technology, which I've avoided. I hate technology personally. When I call a restaurant, I don't want to talk to a computer. I don't want to push 6. I want to talk to a human being to get on the wait list. I want to talk to a human being to place the carry-out order. And for sure, if this goes through, we're going to have to look to eliminate stuff. And restaurants are already adding that 3% charge to credit cards, and then now you factor in another 18% here. At what point does the consumer say, hey, we can't afford to go out to eat anymore?
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for coming in front of the committee today. Next, we'll be hearing from Steve Lalonde and Scott McNellis from Lalonde's Market.
My name is Steve Lalonde. I represent Lalonde's Market in Midland, Michigan. We've been in business for 67 years. We are in our 3rd generation of family-owned. I've personally been involved for over 50 years. Paid leave and a $2 increase in minimum wage will be devastating to our business. I am very concerned that these changes will lead us to close our doors permanently. We have projected that these changes, as written, will add $95,000 to our expense lines. Our business operates on a 2% net profit. These combined increases total up to 3.3%, thus leaving us with a 1.3% loss. We do not have deep pockets. We are unable to come up to cover this deficit. We are small employers that offer personal family services to our community. We have weathered the storm of COVID and yearly inflation, and we see no more room for future increases in retail prices of groceries. You see it in the news every day. For the first time in my career, I fear we will not survive. And this is not crying wolf. This is not Chicken Little. This is real. I would like this committee to consider define small business as 50 or less employees and make them exempt from the paid sick leave. There is precedent to that number of 50. Spread out the $2 raise of minimum wage over a longer period of time, which has been done in the past, 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents. The $2 is too big of a hurdle to jump. Delay the implementation of this if it's possible, to find solutions that will benefit both the employees and the state of Michigan and the businesses that employ them. Please consider the potential devastating unintended consequences to business, and especially small family businesses that are considered the backbone of the support to their communities.
Thank you, Steve. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. And as someone who shops at Lalonde's Market, I'd like to ask Scott. I know a lot of friends of mine in high school, their first job was at Lalonde's Market. So how do you think if the earned sick time is as written goes into effect, how that would affect your hiring practices and your employment practices at Lalonde's Market?
So to give you a little bit of background, I have 30 employees. 19 of them are under the age of 21. 20 of my employees are still in school, high school or college, and 17 of my employees still live at home. Those 17 people, this is the first job they've ever had. I think that the paid sick leave portion and how it affects my business is that you're taking young people whose priority in life is the next party or beer and cigarette money, and you're giving them the ability to use paid sick leave and abuse it at the expense of the business and their coworkers. They're not mentally equipped to handle that kind of responsibility. So I'm not worried about my full-time employees, the people that are paying a mortgage to abuse this policy. What I'm worried about is we're putting this in the hands of a 16-year-old. Something better just comes along and they decide they don't want to come to work, and that affects me and my business. Did I answer your question, Bill?
You did. Thank you, Scott, and I appreciate you both for coming forward to testify today. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Mark, and I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, Owarzak from H2O's Waterside Grill and O's Pub and Grill. And then we're going to have this testimony, and then we're going to have to go at ease at 12:30. So.
Good morning. Thanks, Chairman Chudy and the board for having me here today. I had some notes and things I wanted to go over, but based on what I heard in time, I'm just going to speak from the heart. So first I want to start by saying, prior to owning 2 restaurants in the Bay City area, I have worked 20 years at General Motors as an engineer, and I've worked 10 years for Consumers Energy as an engineer. So I understand, obviously, big business, and then I understand small. I left that industry because engineers don't spend a lot of time with people, and I find that I love spending time with people. I also love to eat, so it just made sense that I decided to get into the restaurant business. One of the things that I want to say is servers, I think there's a misunderstanding. As an employer of servers, today we have to guarantee that people make a minimum wage. So this argument isn't about whether servers are making minimum wage or not. It's purely about the tip credit. Servers consistently work hard to deliver service in order to control the amount of income they make. Serving is a life skill. Serving is a skill that you can take professionally into General Motors. You can take professionally into Consumers Energy. I have 3 daughters that work professionally now that all were servers. And if they were here, they would tell you those life skills meant a ton. Whether it's interviewing, whether it's dealing with people, they mean a lot. So serving is important. And the reason I say that is because if this were to go through, I think you've heard it already, what does small business look like? Do people get replaced by technology? Do people walk into a restaurant? I think about this all the time. Do people walk into a restaurant to a service counter, order, and then one person in the restaurant carries their food? Because it's going to be really difficult to continue to employ the people that we employ in the restaurant industry with these bills the way they are.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Committee's going to stand at ease. Call the chair. We're going to come back at 1 o'clock.
I'm only 36.
The committee will come to order. All right, so we are going to take testimony for the next, 25 minutes or so, and I do anticipate another committee hearing this week, and I really appreciate everybody coming out today. So first up, we have Shadi Ayub, who is the owner of 6 Leo's Coney Island locations, and you have 2 minutes. Mr. Ayub, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of this committee. I had something prepared today that I was going to read, but it seems like all of the servers and restaurant owners here were pretty much in line with what I had to say. So I'll share something a little bit more personal. My grandmother came to America from Lebanon in the early 80s with 4 boys, widowed. She worked in the restaurant industry. She raised all 4 boys and saved enough money to help them later open up restaurants of their own. And I think it's very important for people to realize what this industry can really provide for people that are coming up through it, that work from the bottom all the way up. And for that reason, I feel like people should really take a look at the system that we currently have in place and realize it's worked for so many, and it will continue to hopefully work for so many going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that's our first testimony that has gone under the 2-minute time limit today. So well done. Well done. Chair recognizes Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming today. It means a lot to the people that you serve, that your restaurants serve, and then that you provide employment to. So I just have one really quick question. We talked a lot today about, and we have the last few years, about fairness and equity. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about this. Does this feel fair and equitable to you, your family, and your workers?
Honestly, it doesn't feel fair because it takes away from what the restaurant can provide for their employees. I feel like the experiences, the relationships that we build with our customers, the servers, they're the heartbeat of the restaurant, in my opinion. And when you take that away from our customers, they lose more than just somebody bringing them food to their table. There's so many customers. I've worked at the restaurant since I was 9 years old, bussing tables with my dad, and customers have become like family. I still speak to customers from when I was a teenager, 20 years later, regularly, every day. And I fear if the tipped wages change and we need to remove servers and go to a self-service type restaurant style, everybody loses.
Are you concerned about how your prices will be affected, and will you have to raise your prices?
Absolutely. We own Coney Islands, and if anyone's been to a Coney Island before, we are razor thin on profit margins, like the very bottom of the restaurant industry. And it's done because we make our money in volume. We serve hundreds of customers a day rather than 100 or less than 100 with some people with larger profit margins.
Thank
So
you.
it
Thank you very
changes
much.
everything. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ayub. Appreciate your testimony. Next, we'll be hearing from Keegan Rogers, the owner and manager of the Lake House Bakery and Celestial Gastronomy, LLC, and testifying in support.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to come. I appreciate your time. To show my support for this, as a small business owner, I am caught in an ever-tightening squeeze. Costs of ingredients, some of which have doubled, some tripled, along with the increasing regulatory and utility expenses, continue to strain my ability to operate. Regulations like ESTA further add the financial strain. Meanwhile, I compete with both unregulated cottage food businesses and face challenges larger businesses with greater resources do not. Small businesses are simply left to absorb these costs. While I applaud the goals of ESTA, the financial strain it places on businesses like mine is unsustainable. For a business with fewer than 5 full-time employees, front-loading paid sick time strains cash flow, leaving no room for growth, let alone emergency expenses. Raising prices to offset these costs risks pushing my products beyond what my community can afford and is willing to pay. It jeopardizes my business and the jobs it provides. What frustrates me most is that I want to provide my small but dedicated team with both fair pay and meaningful benefits. They are the backbone of my business, and I want to continue investing in them. ESTA's current structure makes this nearly impossible without putting everything we've worked 6 years for at risk. I respectfully urge this committee to support 4002. It would provide relief, allowing small businesses to focus on growth, supporting the employees, and contributing to the communities instead of absorbing yet another increasing cost. Small businesses like mine are vital to Michigan's economy and also serve as community hubs. We want to thrive, we want to grow, we want to continue supporting our employees and customers long into the future. This will help ensure small businesses remain strong contributors of Michigan's economy. This is a lifelong dream of mine since I was a child to open my bakery, and in 2019, after 35 years in the business, I was able to do it. And it's hard work.
Appreciate your testimony. Chair recognizes Representative Schmaltz.
Thank you, Chair Schutte, and thank you for being here, Keegan. I know you're from my district, and I've talked to many businesses and servers in my district, and one thing you said is so important. Every business wants to do the best for their employees, and this is not that they don't want to do the best. They want to do the best, but they can't do it if they can't stay in business. So thank you for bringing it up.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much. Up next, we will be hearing from Amanda Fisher and Ann Chafee. Amanda Fisher is the NFIB State Director, and Ann Chafee is owner of Mauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Amanda Fisher. I'm the NFIB Michigan State Director, and I am not going to say anything because I want to cede my time to my wonderful member, and I will let her introduce herself, but she is third generation owner of Mauer Sanitary Cleaners. So take it away, Ann.
Hi, we are from the Lansing area, and we've been here since 1915. The dry cleaners have been hit hard after COVID, and we're just now starting to bounce back, and we can't afford this. I had a whole thing prepared, but I think I'm just gonna say we need to have, this is unmanageable for a lot of us, because let alone we're owners, we are the HR people. We don't have the staff. We want to pay our employees, and we do pay our employees. We offer sick time, we offer vacation time. Right now I give them 80 hours of PTO. I can't afford any more than that. And so I'm gonna have to reduce, and my employees are not gonna be happy at all. Sorry, I am really nervous, haven't done this before. But it boils down to it's gonna affect our employees. I had an employee that lost her income. She had to be off for 6 weeks. We paid her PTO, but we also paid her mortgage for that much. If you pass this and force me to pay more, I can't do that. I can't help my employees anymore. So I am asking that you take a look at this because it is unmanageable, and a lot of us small dry cleaners just can't afford it. We've already lost 40 cleaners in the last 3 years, 4 years, and we've had 2 more closing their doors, and there just won't be anybody left.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your testimony, and thank you both for coming before the committee. Do we have any questions? All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
We'll next hear from Monique Stanton from the Michigan League for Public Policy, wishing to speak in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair Schutte and committee members. Thank you for this opportunity today. I'm Monique Stanton, the President and CEO of the Michigan League for Public Policy. We are a 100-plus-year-old organization, a nonprofit advocacy organization focused on economic and racial justice in Michigan. I do want to point out that many of the workers today that are being left out of this conversation were unable to get time off because their employers are not necessarily supportive of this package. So many people that would like to be here today likely were not able to take the time off and make the trip to Lansing. We are opposed to House Bills 4001 and 4002 before you today. House Bill 4001 will disproportionately harm low-paid workers, especially women of color who are overrepresented in low-paid jobs and who have historically earned less than men on average. There's been a lot of conversation today about tipped workers making between $30 to $40 in their wages. I do want to point out that the median reported tipped wage in Michigan, according to BLS, is only $17.02. So that is a big discrepancy from what's been talked about today. States that have eliminated the sub-minimum wage experienced faster growth and recovery post-COVID than workers that did have states that had that sub-minimum wage. So when we talk about business recovery, this has been shown to be something that's positive in states that do have replaced this wage. Strong minimum wage policies are a win-win. Workers are better able to afford basic necessities like food and housing costs. Take-home pay for tipped workers in states without the sub-minimum wage is 21% higher for servers and workers and bartenders. I also want to talk a little bit about House Bill 4002. It would prevent nearly 1.5 million Michigan workers from being guaranteed earned sick time. So we're talking about leaving 1.5 million people out of the ability to take time off if they have norovirus or their kid has pink eye or is sick and needs to stay home. When Michiganders go to work sick, contagious illness we know spreads in workplaces and schools and public spaces, and so we know that the ability to be able to take time off, to have your income protected is really an essential thing for families. We urge this committee to reject both bills.
Right on time. Thank you, Ms. Stanton. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? Not even Angela Rodriguez. All right, there you go. All right, thank you. Next, we'll be hearing from Dave Worthams, Director of Employment from the Michigan Manufacturers Association, and David Robb and Janice Petrini from Express Employment Professionals.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the time. My name is Dave Worthams. I am the Director of Employment Policy with the Michigan Manufacturers Association. We represent about 1,800 members of all sizes, from small mom and pop shops to some of the iconic corporations in Michigan, covering both sides of the bridge. I know that we're short on time, and I want to give Janice and David a chance to really speak. So I just want to highlight one thing in House Bill 4002, which we support and urge your recommendation. Language in that bill about the need for advance notice is very important for our members. While my other colleagues have highlighted some of the other issues, advance notice, leaving it as something as soon as practical, will lead to significant challenges for manufacturers as we try to run operations in the state. Requiring advance notice, however, in accordance with negotiated procedures, either found in a collective bargaining agreement or in your employee manual, that allows that to happen before the start of the shift, is a way to solve this challenge, and it's something that I think a lot of our members will appreciate, so we appreciate that language in 4002. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it over and give the rest of my time to Janice and David.
Thank you, Chair Schutte and the committee. We appreciate it. I'm Janice Petrini, the owner and operator of Express Employment Professionals in West Michigan. I'm here with my fellow co-owner, David Robb, also with Paul LaFrance, who is our a fellow owner and developer for the state of Michigan. And we appreciate Dave and Mike from the MMA for allowing us an opportunity to talk. We provide workforce and workplace talent solutions. And can we keep going?
Mm-hmm. 30 more seconds.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to yield my time then
Yeah.
to David, because we spoke to all of the clients that we serve across Michigan, and we have some feedback from them.
So on Friday, we reached out to our client base of over 1,500 clients, and within less than 24 hours, we received over 50 pages of feedback in opposition to ESTA and in support of reform. We did send this to the clerk ahead of time, so I hope you have a chance to review that. But some of the feedback we received from our client base is that the administrative burden is overwhelming. There's a complete lack of flexibility that penalizes employers who are already doing a good job to support their employees. The lack of notice, as Dave mentioned, will be extremely disruptive to operations for employers.
Yeah.
And there
you.
are significant legal risks the way this is laid out. So we really support the bill and as it's been laid out.
Appreciate your testimony. Yeah, thank you. Any questions? All right. Next, we'll be hearing from Diane Schindelbeck, owner of Shindy's at Diamond Lake, and she'll be testifying in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As the chairman mentioned, I am a owner of a restaurant in rural Michigan on the west side of the state, about an hour north of Grand Rapids. I don't need to read everything that I have here on because of time, and everyone here earlier has pointed out all of the obvious in regards to restaurants raising prices to cover the costs. Servers are already guaranteed minimum wage with current legislation, and servers earn more than minimum wage. My employees earn $25 to $35 an hour in the middle of nowhere. What I'd like to focus on is job loss. Over 50,000 people will lose their jobs. If the tipped wage ratio is adjusted, many small businesses will likely have to replace tip staff with food runners, counter service model, and even robots coming to our tables and using a QR code. Customers will have to place orders directly, and the personal touch we all enjoy in restaurants will fade away. Most places have regulars that appreciate the rapport that they have developed with their staff over the years, and it's part of why they return again and again and again. They love the customers, they love their tips, they love their jobs, like many others in the hospitality industry. We're a state that attracts millions of visitors each year to its scenic lakeshores, vibrant cities, and popular festivals, generating billions in tourism revenue. If restaurants are forced to cut staff or shift to impersonal service models due to rising labor costs, the quality of Michigan's dining and hospitality experience will decline. This risks deterring visitors, reducing tourist spending, and ultimately harming the small businesses that make Michigan a unique and welcoming destination. I'm here to answer any questions, but I really wanted to focus on the loss of jobs.
Thank you very much, Diane. I appreciate it, and I hope I don't let the timer go off on myself because you finished with 10 seconds to spare. Thank you very much, Diane. Do we have any questions from members of the committee?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Diane. Next, we'll be hearing from Mark Miller, the owner of Little Camille's by the Green, and he is testifying in support.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. A lot of great information we heard in the last hour and a half over here. Think about it very strongly. What I want to discuss is the job losses that will happen if this happens. You raise the minimum wage, who's going to pay for that? The employer? No. The guy that's making $15, $16, that's the guy that's going to pay for it, because I can't give him a raise because I have to give this guy a raise. We only have a certain amount of money that we can produce to pay our staff and our overhead. That's something that we've all kind of, I think, forgot about. If we think about a business, we have to pay our utilities, our employees, our insurance, everything. And if we focus on just giving people more money, that we have to make more money to give more money. Our margins are slim. If we have to raise our prices, we lose business. If we keep our prices low, we can gain business. Those are the important things when we're talking about one fair wage. There is no such thing as one fair wage. It's a ladder of wages that we earn, that we produce. Somebody that can produce 2 times as much as somebody else should get paid more. My goal is to pay my staff as much as possible. And the only way I can do that is to be able to level out those different payments to my staff. I have great people, and they like working, and they want to work, and they want to do well. That is what we should be thinking about. We heard enough about the tips. That's a no-brainer. My staff loves being independent contractors. That's how we should be working our business. That's the way it's been working. Why do we want to change it? We shouldn't legislate through one fair wage out of California. What if we did a ballot initiative and we said, hey, all legislators should only make minimum wage? Everybody in this state would vote for that.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? All right. Yeah, Tyra, Representative Carter. All right. Thank you, Representative Carter. Okay. All right. Next, we are going to be hearing from. Hey, thank you, Mark. We're going to be hearing from Brian Scho from the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, testifying in support.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Brian Schoaf with the Detroit Regional Chamber. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. I had pages upon pages to say, but I will not. I will just throw everything out. You've heard a lot here today. You've heard a lot from your constituents back home, both employees and employers, big and small, that changes need to happen here when it comes to ESTA and minimum wage. House Bills 4001, 4002 do those changes, and we would ask for your support in a bipartisan fashion to get this done and get this done quickly, because February 21st is around the corner. So with that, I would take any questions, but thank you very much for all of your support.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from members of the committee? All right. Well, we have had a lot of testimony today, and we're coming up on session. So due to time constraints, we are going to have to wrap up. I want to thank everyone who made the trip here today. I want to apologize we weren't able to hear from everybody, but if you would like to submit your testimony, we have a great clerk here who will make sure it is distributed to the committee. And please feel free to reach out and talk with members of the committee as we make our way to House session. Like I mentioned, I'm planning on having another committee hearing this week. I'll touch base with all the committee members on that afterwards. And seeing no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.